Caroline Dowd-Higgins. Thank you for listening to Your Working Life, my podcast series featuring thought leaders in the career and personal growth arena. You spend a significant portion of your life at work, so my goal is to provide you with tools, inspiration, and resources so you can enjoy your career and love your life. And I am delighted to welcome my very special guest to the show today, Larry Mathis. Larry, welcome.
Good morning, Caroline. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm very excited to be here this morning.
Oh, it's my great pleasure, Larry. I'm really excited to dive into a juicy conversation, but I want to tell our listening audience all about you. Larry Mathis, CFP AIF, is a certified financial planner. He has extensive formal education in financial planning, but today he's the author of the new book, Mom Was Right. Now, Larry was 3 when his father was shot and killed, and he credits much of his success to the lessons he learned on a daily basis from his mom. And his emotionally charged real-life stories about his family's personal and financial hardships offer hope to everyone facing similar challenges today. Larry, such an incredible intro, and thinking of that experience as a very young person, start by bringing me back and telling me about Janine Mathis and what her story was.
Well, Caroline, as you mentioned, my father was shot and killed. It was here in 1965 when my father was killed. My mom was 35 years old. She had 7 children from 15 years old to about 15 months. And she was alone with those 7 kids. She had no home. Well, she had a rental home. She didn't have a home of her own. She had no credit. She had no job. She had a high school education, and was faced with some very, very difficult decisions and a difficult circumstance. She was a tough lady. I refer to her as the toughest 5'2", 125-pound woman you'd ever meet in your life, and.
Incredible. Larry, this clearly impacted your entire life. Did it help you go into financial planning?
Well, Caroline, I kind of wonder about that sometimes. I actually have a degree in agricultural business from Arizona State, which is very different than what I do today. But honestly, I do believe that it was a lot of the lessons that I learned from my mom and some things that happened during my adult life after college that led me to this. And honestly, I really feel that this is my calling. This is exactly where I need to be. And it's like I said, as you introduced earlier, even as a certified financial planner, somebody who works with a vast array of people in their finances, 90% of what I know and what I practice on a daily basis and teach are lessons that I learned from my mom growing up. They were tough. Some of them were very, very tough lessons that I learned. And the book talks about not just financial lessons, but just some tough life lessons as well. And it's those lessons that I learned that have helped me to propel my own personal success, but in addition to that, to help others do the same.
Well, what I love about the book, Larry, is that you really tell stories, and I think that's really pivotal in how we learn. Some of it's relatable to others, certainly powerful and inspirational. So give us a glimpse. Share a lesson or two that you learned growing up as one of 7 total siblings with a single mom.
Well, there's a couple that I seem to have learned, and it's I'll give you again. It's a story-based book, so that when I was my wife and I got married, we graduated from from college, and we went and moved over to San Diego for a little bit. And while we were there, about 18 months into living there, I decided, you know what, I just had enough spending rent. I got this great job making $22,000 a year, and we thought we had hit easy street. And then we found out when you move to San Diego, there is no such street on $22,000 a year. Easy Street just doesn't exist. We went out and we decided to go look for a home. And in the first weekend, we found this beautiful little 1,300 square foot home in northern San Diego County. And we decided we wanted to buy this home. The challenge was, Caroline, we just didn't have enough money to put down on the home. We had saved $5,000. So who do you call? I called Mom up. and began to describe the home to her and telling her, there's this thing called PMI, Mom. I don't really know what it was, which was private mortgage insurance at the time. And I said, we need $20,000. We have five. And she says, well, it sounds like you want to borrow some money, Larry. I said, yeah, we'd like to borrow $15,000. And she goes, well, you're in luck. I just happened to have sold some stocks and I have $15,000. And, we worked out some details. She said she would loan me the money. And she made some really important statements at the end. Now, my mom worked for ran the post office out at Luke Air Force Base. And she said to me, here's your payment. And it was $350 some. And she said, it's due on the first of the month, Larry. And she said, it's going to take a couple of days to get here from the mail, so make sure you mail it early so I have my check on the first of the month. Well, I did some quick math, Caroline, and I realized, I said, hey, Mom, this doesn't equal $15,000 that I'm paying you. I said, it's like $18,000 because it was, over a 60-month period. And she goes, well, of course it is. She said, I'm charging you 8% interest. And I was dumbfounded. I said, 8%? You got to be kidding, Mom. Now, Caroline, at the time, home mortgages were around 10%. 10% was considered a good interest rate way back then, which is amazing. And I said to her, she says, it's 8%. She says, I've been making 12% on this money, Larry. Do you want the loan or not? And so I said, sure. And we worked out some details, and things were going great. We were living it up in our 1,300 square foot home in Escondido, California. And lo and behold, my wife and I decided we wanted to buy another vehicle, and we found this great vehicle that we were going to buy. And guess what, Caroline? We didn't have enough money to buy it. These are some of those lessons, by the way, that I learned later in life. And so I called my mom up and I said, hey, Mom, Rhonda and I found this little truck. We want to buy it. We need to put $2,000. And she said, no way, Larry. I'm not loaning you any more money. And I was, again, dumbfounded. I'm like, what's the deal, Mom? She goes, you're already 2 weeks late on your other payment. With credit like yours, why would I loan you another dime? And I was blown away, Caroline. Well, my wife and I immediately put together a plan to pay my mom back, and it took a little bit of time, but we did get it paid back. And you know what, Caroline? It was at that time. I wasn't just, after thinking about it, I wasn't just disappointed that my mom wouldn't loan me the money, but what I was disappointed about was in myself. Even my own mother wouldn't loan me money. I'd like to tell you that was the last time I had to learn a lesson like that on borrowing money, but that's one of the tough lessons. And in this particular chapter, it is really about talking about getting out of debt, staying out of debt, and really protecting your credit, because that credit rating is a big deal in today's world. So I share a couple of other stories in the book about credit and how I didn't learn my lesson the first time, but later did. And debt is one of those things that so many people in America are just burdened with, and it is really a freeing thing to get rid of it. So I talk about that, and I talk about not just the why behind about getting out of debt, but the other benefits of it. So.
Such a great title for the book, Mom Was Right. And clearly, she is a wise woman. So how did she come to be so savvy about matters financial? Was it just the necessity of the situation?
You know what? It was, Caroline. My mother's father was an entrepreneur, a businessman, but I'll be really honest about that part of the story. My grandfather was not a man who was really into taking care of others. And my mom was pretty much forced to take care of things herself. So it was just out of the sheer desire. And there's a chapter in the book about the difference between values and goals. And I kind of talk about this in that chapter, because what my mom was faced with was taking care of 7 kids. And it was really just out of the sheer desire of making sure that her kids were going to be taken care of, and that she didn't want to have them to have to worry about money. So it was really just born out of necessity. She was a very intelligent woman. She was a whiz at math. She ran a business for 25 years after my father died. She was a general contractor for the U.S. Postal Service, ran the post office out at Luke Air Force Base. When it came to numbers, she knew them very well. So I would have to answer that question by just saying it was just out of the sheer desire of making sure that her kids, and not only her kids, but in addition to that, Caroline herself, because she had to make sure that after the kids were gone, she was going to be taken care of as well. And I mean, as far as, saving for her own personal retirement. And what's amazing about this, with all the stuff that I've just told you, my mother never earned more than about $22,000 a year, which was my starting income at my very first job. And my mom retired in 1996, which in that particular year, the most money she had earned was $21,667. And she was self-employed, so she had some additional taxes that a lot of people who are employed don't have to pay. And on that, plus some other resources that I'd be happy to talk about if you'd like. But she was able to not only be able to retire debt-free, excuse me, and I said 1996, it was actually 1992. She was not only able to retire debt-free, that included her home was totally paid for, but she paid for my college education, she paid for my oldest sister's college education, and sent me and my youngest sister to Europe, all expenses paid, for a month. For our high school graduation. She did some amazing, amazing things.
There's more than just being a whiz at math, as you've said. Was she an incredible saver? Was she an investor? Give us some insight about how she really took this very, shall we say, small salary, small but mighty, and did great things with it.
She did, and she was an incredible saver. And I will tell you, probably the most loving word my mother ever said to any of us kids was no. It was if you wanted something extra at the house, regardless of what it was, you knew pretty much it was going to be up to you to have to go out and earn it. Now, Caroline, I want to share something else with you, because I talk about my mom never earning more than $21,667 a year. When my father died, he did have a life insurance policy. In addition to that, there are some benefits through the Social Security Administration that widows and surviving children have. So she made some smart decisions with that. But with the money that my father had left via a life insurance policy, my mom did nothing with that. She set it aside, and for almost 3 years, she basically took time and researched and learned about investing. She did invest. She invested a great deal of good portion of that money. She also used dividends and those things to live off of. And she was very, very savvy investor. As a matter of fact, that money that I talked about that came to buy as a down payment for my wife's and my first home came from that. The college education money came from that, for myself as well as my older sister. And I talk in the book about some things and how my mom said no a lot. And you might just think, well, gosh, she had that life insurance. Why didn't she just use that to have a better life while you were growing up? And believe me, Caroline, it wasn't. I never really knew we didn't have a lot. We had a great life growing up, lots of love in the household, and but she knew that money was going to have to last for a long time, not just for taking care of us kids, but for taking care of her retirement as well. So she was a savvy investor, she, in addition to that, she knew that as far as investing was concerned, your accounts don't always go up in value. And there was a time back in the early 70s when we experienced a downturn in the stock market, and her investments dropped significantly. But she didn't panic like a lot of people would. She did not panic. She stuck with her investment strategy, and it turned out to be a very, very good strategy at that. And I talk about that in the book.
Yeah. So let's talk about the book in particular. What do you hope that people get out of reading the book Mom Was Right? And Larry, who's your target audience? So they're out there listening. How can they self-identify with who should read this book?
Caroline, you ask a great question. When I originally started writing this book, I thought the ideal person for this book is a working mom. But the more I thought about it, this book is really for a bigger audience than that. I think the book will relate specifically to women because it is a book about a woman who did great things with their finances. But the more I thought about it, this is a book written by a man who learned a lot about finances from a woman. So I would say the target audience probably is more women than men, but anybody can benefit from this. And my purpose in writing the book is really to get people to think about making smart financial choices. So many times we just make a decision so quickly with our finances, and we don't really take the time to sit down and think about why we're making the decisions that we make. Whether it's buying a new home, whether it is deciding what type of an investment to use, whether it's where are we going to send our kids to school. This book is written to help you to think about the why behind your decisions. And that's why I talk a little bit in the book about the difference between values and goals. Those values are the things that drive us. They're the emotional fuel, if you will, behind us reaching our goals. And knowing what's important to you is really more important than knowing what you are trying to achieve. So the book is written in a style. It's a series of life vignettes, and I tell stories because, as you mentioned, Caroline, people can relate to stories, and I want them to know what their options are before making a big financial decision. Simple things like, what neighborhood should we live in? Should we even move? Should we buy a new home? The value of teaching your kids early, the value of work. And knowing where you stand financially, your goals, and so it really is it's a book that's written to a large audience, and this is not a book on penny pinching. It's not a book about teaching you, hey, cut back here and don't spend money here. This is a book about what is really important to you in life. What do you really want? And I've discovered over the years as a financial professional that when people really sit down and determine what they're really looking for in life, it's not, and there's nothing wrong with having a big home and nice cars and traveling and all of those things. But when people really sit down and figure out what is it that we're really looking for, they're looking for security. They're looking for the ability to raise kids who are going to be successful, and it really comes down to, this is what I really want. This is what's really important to me, and it's not all the stuff. It's a worry-free lifestyle, and that's what the book is really written to do, is to help people to really evaluate what is it that I'm really looking for in life, not stuff, but those values.
Well, Larry, that is so palpable in the book. And again, the title is Mom Was Right. Tell us how we can buy the book and follow you online.
Well, you can go to momwasrightbook.com. Don't forget the book. It's real important. momwasrightbook.com. You can preview the book. Chapter 1 is there. There are some testimonies there on the book about Mom Was Right. You can also link up with me on LinkedIn. And if there's a part there on the website, momwasrightbook.com. You can contact me if you have any questions. I will answer the email personally if you have anything that you would like to ask me. And momwasrightbook.com, LinkedIn, and you can contact me, and I look forward to talking with your listeners.
Larry, what a treat to have you on the show. I wish you continued success, and cheers to you. The book is extraordinary, and cheers to Janine Mathis, the inspiration. Mom was right.
Thank you so much, Caroline. It was great being here today.
Thanks, Larry. And I want to thank all of you for tuning into Your Working Life, where my goal is to help you design your career destiny so it doesn't happen by default. Career and life satisfaction is possible, and it's time to embrace what you love doing so you can do more of it. My show is now available on iTunes, YouTube, Podbean, and Stitcher. Leave a comment because I always appreciate hearing from my listeners. I'm Caroline Dowd-Higgins. Take good care.